slides, if you're following along. And the end of the stick here. I'm messing with that. So this is the part where we're talking about counterintelligence, and when you are working against an enemy, you have to understand the strategies, and you have to know how the enemy works so that your strategies are effective. That's called counterintelligence. You're going to counteract all of the plans and schemes of the enemy. So this section is called code breakers. So we all know now that the enemy's plan is, oh, good job. Let's try that again. We all now know that the enemy's plan is, right, he uses pain against us. What I want to talk to you about is how trauma affects the human brain. Trauma affects the human brain. So I want to cover the factors. I want to start with the first factor. The first factor is called breach of relationship. This is the disconnect that David talked to you about in session 1. Relationships are the absolute heart of humanity, and you were created for relationships. Say, I was created for relationship.
I was created for relationship.
Okay? So the first factor is breach of relationship, and the second factor is age, duration, and severity of the stress. How old were you when negative things were happening in your life?
Yeah.
How long did it last? And what was the level of severity? So I want to just kind of put a PS in here right now. Relationship with the parent. Relationship with your parents is the carrier for all learning. So much of the trauma, so much of the adverse experiences happen to us when we're children. That's why we were taking a little survey there on the adverse childhood experiences, little questionnaire there, because the most, I'm going to say, far-reaching consequences of trauma and abuse are the things, the adverse circumstances that happen to you as a child. And you would really understand this when you think about, as a child, everything is like larger than life because you're little, right? I used to think that I had this really long driveway when I was a little kid because I would walk to the bus, right? I went back and I looked at my driveway and I'm thinking, what happened to the driveway? It shrunk. No, I just grew up and I have a different perspective on things. So this is how it is for children as they are experiencing things in the family life, in the neighborhood, at school, etc. So moderate and predictable stress in childhood is normal. It's not harmful. It's part of growing and learning. Low levels of stress help children learn, grow, like learning to walk. Right? That's a little stressful, right? Okay, so you're toddling, right? Boom! That's not the end of the world for a child. I'm just saying. What do? They get right back up. Why do they do that? You're like, oh, good job. Okay, do it again. Do it again. You can do it. You can do it. Come on, come to mommy. Come on, come on. And what do? Well, we get right back up and we toddle over there and finally we're doing it. We're doing it because of all of that amazing support that we have to learn to walk. So the trauma is counteracted there by all the encouragement and the love and the yes! Woohoo! Look what you just did! Yes! Right? Alright. So low levels of stress help children learn and grow, and they even help them deal with disappointment, like having to take a nap. You know? I hated naps. I despised naps. Right? But we had, or someone takes your toy. I didn't like that either. So that's part of growing and developing as a child, is to learn how to handle not stress that never goes away. That there's always this level of stress in the life of a child. That kind of stress oversensitizes the neural pathways of the brain that deal with the anxiety and fear responses. Chronic fear inhibits exploration. It means, hey, if I'm too afraid, I'm not going to try anything new because I don't know what's going to happen, right?
Right.
Well, how does a child learn? A child learns by exploring and testing limits and trying things out. But if it's dangerous to do those things and you don't know what's going to happen if you try something new, okay, it inhibits exploration. It stops the learning process. It freezes mental and emotional development. I'm going to say it again. Chronic fear freezes mental and emotional development, which creates limited opportunities. So the fear response literally changes the physical brain. So I just want to show you this, my cool stick. Isn't that cool? Yeah, I don't know which one to do. Oh, right. I heard a really loud voice, right? There you go. What am I doing? Oh, this one. Jim's telling me which one to use. All right. So I'm over here. You guys have the same picture over there, all right? So what I want to show you is that this is the brain scan, okay, of a 3-year-old child that has had a nurturing, what we're going to call normal. This is not the normal anymore, this is. But in the normal, nurturing environment of childhood, this right here is the size of the brain. And you'll notice how much smaller this brain is of this 3-year-old child who has experienced long-term neglect, extreme neglect and abandonment. So it has arrested or stymied the growth of the brain itself. Now this is important because there are physiological differences in the brain that has been traumatized as a child. I'm not telling you that to freak you out. I've got good news. Hang on, okay? So I want you to notice here also that these little dark areas right here, those are the ventricles that secrete where cortisol is pumped through. And thank you, Jeremy. Okay. And so cortisol, that's the neurotransmitter that comes in for flight or fight responses. So that when you're afraid, it starts pumping cortisol through you so that you can manage the terror that you're feeling or the fear that you're experiencing. When you are in chronic fear, it's pumping continuously. You are having cortisol all the time. And what does it do? It makes really large, oversized ventricles. And what happens to the brain when cortisol has been pumping chronically for a long, long time? It becomes toxic to the body. It becomes poison to your system. It creates lack of health. It creates all kinds of sickness and other maladies. So I'm just going to say this. This was good news to me to know that there was a reason why some children cannot respond, cannot learn the same as other children. It wasn't that I was a bad parent. I had foster boys. It wasn't that I was a bad parent, that I couldn't teach, that I wasn't loving. It wasn't any of those things. It was these children had severe trauma in their past, and therefore they were on red alert. Chronic fear puts the whole system on red alert all the time, and it never shuts off. We have a new name for that. It's called PTSD. And so some of you have been diagnosed with PTSD. And what they tell you is that your fear, your fight or flight switch has been turned on, and it cannot be turned off. And I'm here to tell you that in this seminar, in this workshop, you will be able to take charge of your own switch, and you can turn off the PTSD switch. Only one person thinks that's good news. I'm telling you the truth. Because to take medications for the rest of their life, and it only reduces the symptoms minimally. It does not ever heal it, it does not ever take care of it. So what I want to tell you is that this is very good news. Children who live with constant threat of abuse must focus their brain's resources on survival. Overstimulation of the fear response hinders the growth of the parts of the brain involved in more complex thought, and this shuts down learning and development. I want to show you this graph. This is all about survival. All right, here we go. Here's my stick again. Okay, Jeremy. So this is a graph of how your brain looks and how it develops, grows and develops. So I'm going to just talk right here about the 6-year-old healthy brain. You'll notice that, first of all, it's very symmetrical. It's the same on that side as it is on that side. Do you all know that you have a right and a left brain? Yes, you do. Okay, good. And so what I want you to know is that this graph starts with where the brain begins its development at the brainstem, and it moves up. So if you'll take your hand and just touch the back of your neck, this is your brainstem, and your brain develops in a forward-upward movement up to the frontal cortex of your brain. All right? And so my graph moves up just like that. Now you'll notice that all these dark areas, and then a little bit lighter, and then even lighter, and then you'll see up there the lightest of all. So let's just describe this a little bit. First of all, the darkest section of the brain means that it's fully functional, it's well organized, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. The next shade lighter is, this is the brain that is partially organized, and it's episodically functional. What that means is, under the right circumstances, it's doing really good. Okay? And it's probably doing perfectly for the age that you're at, the level of maturity that you're at. Okay, the next lightest color, this one here, means that this is the part of the brain that's developing. It has emerging capacity, but it's still poorly organized, and it's somewhat dysfunctional. Okay? Now, the very lightest color, which you're going to see up here, is undeveloped, non-functional. Let me point out to you, at 6 years old, this brain, at all levels, including the frontal cortex. Let's just talk about brainstem. Brainstem, this is your autonomic systems. This is your heart rate, your perspiration. This is your body temperature. These are all the things that your body does, and you don't have to tell it what to do. All right? The diencephalon, this is a lot about motor skills. This is about appetite. This is about coordination. This is about, what you start using when you're a toddler. The limbic system, this is about your emotions. And this is about handling disappointment and understanding the difference between mad and happy. And this is about rewards and the things that motivate, okay? So that's the limbic system. Now the cortex system is when you start solving problems. You can tell the difference between right and wrong, right? You're starting to have a little bit of a moral compass, right? You're able to do minor problem solving. You can figure out what to do in a given circumstance. Now, the frontal, that's the prefrontal cortex, that's this part right here. But this part right here, this is advanced. This here says that you are a doggone good problem solver. You can even think abstractly and imagine more than one outcome. Right? If I do A, C might happen, or E might happen, right? But if I do B, I know for sure this, well, maybe not, something else could. You see what are you tracking with me? Okay. So what we have now, I want you to see that this 6-year-old healthy brain, look how fully developed it is. It can solve advanced problems and imagine different outcomes. But I want you to see up here, this 6-year-old who has been suffering from trauma and neglect, I want you to see, first of all, that one side of the brain may have fully developed areas, but the other side of the brain does not. Okay, this is very important because this limits the child's ability to process information. You receive information through your 5 senses. And so all of the information that comes in through taste, touch, sight, hearing, okay, etc. It's processed through the brain and it's saved for future reference. I want you to notice this right here. This is the brain stem. This is the autonomic systems. This is heart rate, temperature. This is blood pressure. This is all those things that you don't have to think about. And I want you to see that this 6-year-old has partially organized and episodically functional abilities at the autonomic level. I want you to know that the children in our school systems today are represented in the top graph. I want you to know that the frequency and the level of abuse that our children are experiencing is creating generations of children who are having a severe difficulty with learning. Now, I'm not trying to freak you out here. What I'm trying to do is give you some context for maybe why you struggled in school. I want to give you some context. You're not stupid. Say, I am not stupid. Say, I am not broken. I just want to give you a little bit of context of why you had to overcome some hurdles. And we're going to give you such amazing tools that this is corrected very quickly because the brain can change and heal itself because God created your brain as a wonder and it is created to heal.
Amen.
All right.
Hallelujah.
So this is good news.
Right. Good news.
Good news. The reason I want you to know this is it helps us to understand not only ourselves but one another. I'll just tell you, people irritate each other. And you think, really? Just get a clue. What is the problem? Can you figure this out? Why are you behaving this way every time? Why are you making all the same mistakes over and over? Can you just not get that? What is the problem with you? We go to the store and we're irritated because the checker just has no skills. You know, and we're irritated about that driver who's not paying attention. And we're just irritated all the time because nobody is how we want them to be. What I want to do is I want to give us a level of compassion that comes with understanding, that comes from understanding. But it's even more than just somebody's having a bad day. Somebody's had a bad life.
Amen. Right.
Okay?
Right.
And so let's just move beyond behaviors and get to the value and worth of a person. And that's what we're here to do.
Amen. Well said.
So chronic fear also can create permanent memories. These are invisible things, you know, but they're permanent memories or templates, which are actually distorted perceptions of the actual events. When you're little, things are larger than life. You come up with a story in your mind of what that was like because of how you were perceiving the actual event. If dad is choking mom and throwing her up against the wall, okay, you have a story in your mind about that. It meant something to you. You might have thought mom was going to die. You might have thought you were next. Unresolved memories of traumatic events are toxic to the brain and result in far-reaching negative effects in every area of life until they're healed. I'm going to say it again. Unresolved memories of traumatic events are toxic to the brain and result in far-reaching negative effects in every area of life until they are healed. The traumatized brain remains childish in its self-focus and self-gratification, seeking first to survive and second to feel good. Okay? As a kid, you just want to live, right? You want to live through whatever's going on, right? And the next thing you want is chocolate ice cream. Right? You want to feel good. You want to have some fun. Can we please just have some fun? Because all this other stuff is really stressful. I don't know if I said this before, but I'm going to tell you this, that the emotional development of children freezes at the age of the first trauma. Okay? So there are stages of development in childhood. Learning, markers, abilities. There's walking, there's feeding yourself, there's tying your shoes, those are different childhood development ages and stages. But your little emotional development freezes at the stage that you're at when trauma happens. That's why we have adult men and women who act like children all the time, who are processing everything from the limbic part of their brain or even the diencephalon part of their brain because they got stuck there because of what was going on in their childhood.
Amen.
I want this to bring up some compassion for yourself. Okay? I want you to give yourself some compassion here, and I want you to do this for others. So painful memories create little T truths. Okay. Little T truths are like frames on a picture. If this was a freeze frame, this is a little T truth. You can see how small it is. I have limited peripheral vision because I've got a frame here that blocks my vision, right? I can't see very far around, all right? And my perspective is a little bit more like a telescope. It's pretty narrow. Painful memories create what we're going to call little T truths. These are perceptions. These perceptions are like the glasses you're putting on. These perceptions become belief systems. This is our truth. Nobody can talk me out of it, okay? Because it didn't happen to you, it happened to me. And this is how it was for me, so you just need to get over it, right? Because this is how it was for me. This is my truth. It's my experience, so it's true for me, and you're not going to be able to talk me out of it. And the other thing is that you have to be right in order to survive. I'm going to say that again. You have to be right in order to survive. So you have perceptions of the trauma in your life that have created a small frame for you to view your world in. That means that every incident, everything that happens in your life is viewed through those glasses that you have on. Because those are the truths that you understand. Those are the truths that you believe. These are the truths. This is true for me. Men are dangerous. Everybody leaves me or abandons me at some point. I'm telling you little T truths right now. I'm fat. I'm stupid. I can't ever succeed. I can't make friends. I'm not worth anything. So these are the rules that we live by, and this is how we build relationships, or not, right? I mean, aren't we imprisoned in these little T truths? Right, but this is all we have when we have had trauma and abuse. I cannot do that. All right, I want you to know that this is a weapon of the enemy. Little T truths are how he operates. He gives you experiences that give you beliefs that you are trapped in until you are set free. And that's going to happen right away. Here we go. We view our world through the distortion of our unresolved, painful memories. So little T truths create core fears. I'd like you to go to the addendum section, and behind the ACE score, there is a sheet saying possible core fears. If you would just open that up and see if you can find at least 4 possible core fears that you have either had in the past or you are experiencing now. See if you can find 4. It's the second page in the addendum section where your tab is. It's called possible core fears. So just put a little check mark next to the ones that sound really familiar to you. No, not thinking errors. Possible core fears. There you go. This should say rejected, I feel unwanted or unneeded, abandoned, disconnected, I'm a failure. Has everybody found one? Has anybody found more than one? Yeah. Some of us have had every core fear on the page. And some of us have overcome them all. Okay? You've made progress, huh, Amy?
What? Yeah.
Yes, you have.
I'm like, what? Oh my gosh.
Right.
One of the things that happens is when somebody brushes up against one of your core fears, you might not know it's a core fear, it just might tick you off. Just might get mad right off the bat. Like 0 to 60 in about no seconds at all. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a core fear. So find the things that really make you mad. The fastest. All right. I want you to note at the bottom of the page there is a remark that says, the central theme of all core fears is, I just need to be loved and valued. Could you just see me as a person that has some worth and some value? Could you just love me for who I am, please? That's the underlying need for every core fear that we all share, and we all have them. There isn't a single person on the face of the earth that doesn't have a core fear. But I want you to know that you can have fewer and fewer, and you can bring it right down to none at all, when you can understand who you really are and who really does love you. Our painful memories create little t truths, which then create core fears, which we just talked about. Those core fears produce reactivity. When someone gets too close to one of our core fears, we get triggered, and we get defensive, and we get mad, and we get reactive, and we get revengeful, and we do all kinds of crazy stuff that's not really thoughtful, right? Because we're reacting. We're not even thinking about it. We're not measuring our response. It's like when you go to the doctor and he says, here, let's just check your reflex, and he taps a little place below your kneecap, and you're kicking really big, and you didn't even know. I mean, you didn't even mean to. That's exactly what happens with reactivity as it relates to a core fear. So core fears create reactivity. When our core fears get triggered, we react. It looks like bitterness or revenge, hostility, anger, aggression. Sometimes we use a different coping skill and we go into depression or withdrawal or numbing out. We blame, we project on other people, and we're critical. Oh, we're sarcastic, we deny, we minimize, we're defensive, we justify, we rationalize. Oh, we're resistant. We're passive aggressive. Sometimes we just get really good at caretaking and looking at other people's problems and fixing them. We use humor, we use sarcasm, indifference, abdication, and self-abandonment. So our glasses cause us to see and react negatively to every situation in our life. You will not have a positive response when you are looking at life through your trauma and your pain and your unhealed wounds. So our behaviors, this is the second factor. We develop coping skills in order to psychologically survive each actual event of abuse. We have coping mechanisms. They look like this. Flight skills. The types of flight skills sometimes are as small as withdrawal, depression, that's not so small, isolation. That can move to another level of withdrawal, like addictions, substance abuse, overeating, etc. It can become even more intense when it begins to affect your mental capacity, can cause disassociation, schizophrenia, bipolar, even autism. And the most permanent of all of these flight skills is suicide. I'm out of here. There's also fight skills. You've heard of the fight or flight response. Here's the fight skills. It starts out with stubbornness and passive-aggressive resistance. That means I say yes, but I actually do no. Okay? It can move into things next level, which is oppositional defiance. I just argue with you. I'm always right, you're always wrong. And if you say it's blue, I'll say it's lavender. Okay? And we'll always be in opposition. Another level of fight skills is aggression and violence. And of course, the most severe level of fight is homicide. I'll just kill you. Right? There's a third skill that we have that's called freeze. And this is a lot of times when you're unable to manage the level of stress that you're under and you block it out, you step out of your body, perhaps you don't remember what's going on. Freezing stops emotional development. Lots of blank spots. Many people that we work with have no recollection of their childhood from a certain age or periods of their childhood. It's very, very common that children actually just have shut that part out because it's been too much for them to manage. So childhood trauma, I was ahead of myself in my notes. Childhood trauma causes the brain to freeze at the child's current developmental stage. This happens because the brain becomes overwhelmed with input that it cannot put into context. You see, when we're learning through discovery, we have little filing cabinets in our brain. Okay, chocolate ice cream, really good. That's in my let's do that again drawer, okay? The cat scratches me, I don't like that. I don't know. Okay, I'll think about that. They're kind of soft, they're kind of cute, but that's a warning. Okay, and then there's this, hey, don't put your finger on the stove because that burns you. Okay, so that's a definite negative. So what you're doing is you're learning and you're testing things out and it's going in filing cabinets. And what happens when you come into the overwhelmed part of your brain, it's like, okay, no filing cabinet, no drawer for that. I have no idea what to do about the person who just molested me. I have no file drawer for that. I don't even know what that is. I don't know. It's very confusing. Maybe it was good. I don't think it was good. It was bad. I don't know. But I got a treat for it. Okay? But I have a secret. It can be all kinds of things like that. Daddy says it was good. Mommy says it was bad. I mean, Daddy let me have chocolate cake in my cereal. Mommy says I need to have broccoli. Okay, you see, it can be confusing. But it's when you're having a trauma, it's at a much more extreme level. The brain cannot process the event in order to make sense of it. Many of the survivors we've worked with describe how in order to cut out the memory of abuse, they cut out any memory of childhood at all, because it's simply too painful to look back. So I'm going to turn this over to Holly, and she's going to talk to you some more about coping skills.
Awesome.
Good job.
So my name is Holly Graham, and I am blessed to have been invited into this family almost 20 years ago by my amazing husband, who chose me. Yes. Blessed every day. But it was, we want you to know that we're not sharing this because we have it all together. We're sharing this because we had to walk this out. It was into my marriage I discovered that, I have to be healed. That's what's wrong with me. So I started going on a journey with the Lord, discovering how to be healed. And this has just been birthed from us pressing in for our own healing. Because all we wanted to do was help other people, but we couldn't help other people when we're still broken. So when I started my journey, you guys can see this domino effect, okay? We have the pain perceptions, okay, this distorted pain perceptions, have little t truths. This brings core fears, and then this equals your behaviors, okay, your fight, flight, or freeze. And these become coping skills. So when Mom was talking about your little t truths or the possible core fears, am I too loud? Sorry, I get really excited.
Get excited.
So when she was talking about the core fears, I want you to know every single one of my, that whole page was checked. I had them all. I had no idea. I just knew that I didn't like that, I didn't like that, and I had no idea that these were core fears. And I had no idea that there was a healing through Jesus Christ for these. And there is. But without knowing, without being able to do something with the behaviors and recognizing where they come from, without that, you get stuck in these coping skills, and the coping skills then will become thinking errors. These thinking errors they're like a refusal to accept responsibility. I can't be responsible moves to I won't be responsible. There's a lack of time perspective, fantasy thinking, no understanding of cause and effect. My situation is unique. Have you ever heard that? I'm just unique. Have you ever felt that? I'm just unique. We perceive all people, places, and things and objects as things to possess. They're ours. I deserve. I'm entitled. We're not open to input or correction. We view ourselves as the victim. Everyone else is to blame. We quit at the first sign of failure. We fail to acknowledge negative behaviors. We self-sabotage because the truth is, I don't deserve it. That's a lie. We use manipulation and deceit to get what we think that we need. What's in it for me? There's no sense of obligation. We have irrational fears. We always have to be right. You know someone who always has to be right? If you don't know someone, is it you? Okay, always have to be right. It's controlling. These thinking errors, we then get stuck in this rut. It's like this cycle of defeat. See, thinking errors will become criminal thinking, which will lead to criminal actions, because we will do what we believe. So in the back of your book, in your addendum section, I was like saying that really, addendum section, you're going to come across the paper that looks like this. It's called the Continuum of Behaviors. I want you just to take a peek at that. So we have 3 different categories. We have our irresponsible and illegal, we have our irresponsible but legal, and we have our responsible behavior patterns. So most of society, okay, I was here too. When we're in our pain and in our hurt, we have this irresponsible but legal pattern, behavior patterns, which can be lying, controlling others, manipulation, quitting when something gets hard or uncomfortable. Maybe we're really good at keeping secrets. Whatever it is, we'll find ourselves in this middle section right here. And I want you to know that this is a place of coping. Our society copes here. They think really well. But unless something shifts here, unless something is, we know what to do and know that we are created for more than coping, we will swing to a place of irresponsible and illegal. Because criminal thinking leads to criminal actions. This is breaking the rules, the laws. We exploit others. We're focused on not getting caught. I have, little kids. I didn't do it, and it's like all over their face. I didn't do it. But really what we need to recognize is that this really is just a place of immaturity. This place right here in the center, this irresponsible and legal place, this is a place of immaturity, where we have been stuck in the brain from our own pain, from our own trauma, from the stuff that we've experienced. And so we're stuck in the immaturity. Johnson and Salmonhouse, they did a study of career criminals during incarceration and found out that criminality, it's just immature thinking. I don't know if any of you have ever been labeled or have labeled others, but what does that do for you to know that, oh, that's just immature thinking? And if there's an immature thinking, that means there's a mature thinking and I can change. I'm not stuck here. I'm not stuck under this label. That's not who I am. I can change. So it's just immature thinking. Criminality is just immature thinking, and it leads to irresponsible and criminal actions. Because we have to remember that maturity level is frozen at the age of development stage, that the trauma has occurred. So many of us, if we aren't doing illegal things, we're finding ourselves in this middle legal, not really swaying one way or the other, coping, we're making it. We're making it. We're holding on. I want to tell you something. Jesus Christ didn't give everything for us to just go.
That's right.
He didn't bankrupt heaven for
Amen.
us to just make it.
Right.
The second part of John 10:10 says he came to give us life and life abundantly, the wahoo life. And if we're just making it, we're getting stolen. So we're not getting it all. I don't know about you, I want it all.
Yeah.
I want everything that Jesus Christ died for me to have. And so we have to think about the brain. Okay, well, we cannot have straight living with crooked thinking. We can't have straight living with crooked thinking. So if we're stuck in this immature thinking, we're just coping, we're just making it, we're coming from point A to point B, we can do this, but our mind is not being changed. We need to look again at what God says about the brain. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. He talks a lot about the mind. The battles won or lost in the mind. Those thinking errors then become patterns and habits when they're not addressed, when they're not submitted to Jesus Christ. Those patterns and habits, compulsive lying, stealing, hiding, sneaking, cover-up, power plays, obsessive compulsive tendencies, poor personal care, no impulse control, no boundaries, anger as the only emotion. There's an inability to form relationships. There's strongholds and addictions. And those patterns and habits, when left unsurrendered and healed by the blood of Jesus Christ that was already shed for that healing, it becomes a generational pattern. When you have parents that don't know how to bond with their kids,
Right.
the kids
Yeah.
won't know how to bond with their kids.
Yeah.
And those kids won't know how to bond with their kids. It's evidenced by the inability to maintain healthy relationships and the absence of a moral conscience. See, in the absence of a new choice, generational known coping patterns will always prevail. I'll say that again. In the absence of a new choice, generational known coping patterns will always prevail. And these become family strongholds and addictions. One generation's compromise will always become the next generation's captivity. I want you to think about that. One generation's compromise will always become the next generation's captivity. But I love it because for everything that feels like a curse or feels negative, God has a blessing waiting. So if that's true in the negative form, in the negative sense, that my compromise, it could be alcohol, drugs, pornography, food, TV, self-soothing, whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is. If I'm going to compromise here and that becomes my kids' captivity, let me tell you what's over here. If I compromise and I choose to surrender to the power of the Holy Spirit, and I allow myself to go on this journey with God, you know what captivity? My kids are now captive to the love of God.
Right.
It's paid forward.
Yeah. Amen.
Numbers 14:18 says, the sins of the father are visited upon the children to the third and the fourth generation. But the blessing goes to 1,000 generations.
Amen.
You can be the
Thank you,
first
Jesus.
of that 1,000 generation.
Right. That's right.
You can be the first of that 1,000 generation. And let me tell you, when you you choose to be the first, it doesn't go just from you forward, it goes from you back, side to side, and forward. I'd love to share my testimony with you sometime when you want to hear how God's done that in my own family, because I chose to be one of the first.
Amen.
So if we look at the summary of behaviors one more time, we have our coping skills, they become thinking errors. Those thinking errors become patterns and habits. Those patterns and habits become generational patterns. But there's hope. You're not stuck. Let's watch this clip.
Our best and brightest scientists and physicians believed that the adult brain couldn't change. Our brain circuits were formed and finalized in childhood. Now we discover that the brain is plastic, meaning changeable. But not all change is good. That changing brain can actually do us harm. Obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and even schizophrenia. But the mind can harness the damage brain's plasticity to change itself. And now we are finding new treatments for mental diseases and disorders once thought incurable.
When you would tell people, hey, this is your brain sending you a false message, it would help them.
We might actually change the whole course, the whole trajectory of someone's life.
This is medicine. This has outcomes that are medical. It changes brains physically. It changes them chemically. It changes them functionally.
We do not yet see where the limits will be. There are still big new surprises.
My name is Dr. Norman Deutsch, and I wrote a book called The Brain That Changes Itself. The discovery of neuroplasticity is the discovery that our brains can change their structure and function through mental experience alone. It signals the most important change in our understanding of the brain in 400 years, because for 400 years we thought of the brain as though it were like a machine with parts, and that view of the machine-like brain gave rise to a neurological fatalism, because it meant people who were born with brain damage or who sustained brain damage as they developed were condemned to live with it, because machines do many glorious things, but they don't grow new parts, and they can't reorganize themselves.
Good news. Good news.
Good news.
Your past does not equal your future.
Yeah.
What did you say? My past
My past
does not equal my future.
is not equal to my future.
That's some good news. You're a neuroplastician. Put that on your resume. I am a neuroplastician. You are fully equipped and capable from the time you were born. God put it in you to be able to change your brain. You're a neuroplastician. And the good news is that your brain can heal. Dr. Bruce Perry, I love this quote. He says, I always want to start by challenging the myth that says, if you're abused, that the damage is permanent. Yeah, he's agreeing with God here.
Yeah.
He's agreeing with God here. Because Romans 12:2 says, let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think.
Yeah. Amen.
2 Corinthians 5:17 says, if anyone is in Christ, he's a new creation. The old is gone and the new has come. You're a new creation. This is your birthright. You get to be a new creation. You get new DNA. You get God's DNA in you. Let's watch this little clip.
Imagine, okay, you're all there, you're caterpillar, all day, you're crawling up a plant, tree, whatever. You're just walking around the same plot of dirt all your life, okay? Then, one day, you take a nap. Just think about this. You take a nap, you fall asleep, and it's a long nap. What goes through your head when you wake up out of that nap? You're like, shut up.
there's no such thing as caterpillar DNA.
Right on.
No such thing. But does the caterpillar believe he's anything other than a caterpillar? No. But there's no such thing as a caterpillar DNA. What if he knew of the DNA and the blood that flowed through his veins?
Right.
What would happen if we started knowing and believing about the blood that flowed through our veins? That you have the DNA of heaven in you. It's his, if you're breathing, it's his breath. He's breathing into you. Woo, stand up. See, the enemy just wants you to believe that you're just a worm, that you're living a little worm life, crawling along your little worm plant on your little worm plot of ground, and the Holy Spirit and Jesus and God have this amazing plan already set into motion, saying that I want you to know who you are. So I'm going to do whatever it takes for you to recognize that you're my kid. You're not my step kid. You're not just, the one I decided to adopt in. My blood flows through your veins, and my breath is coming out of your lungs. So when was the last time you looked in the mirror and you went, shut up? I have the DNA of heaven in me. You're a butterfly. You don't have worm DNA in you, so put out your wings. We're in practice. Ready? Shut up! Shut up! I have the DNA of heaven. I am a new creation. You have the DNA of heaven in you. What would that change if you believed that to be true?
Right. Exactly.
Would it change what you thought about yourself, or how you spoke, or how you behaved?
Yeah.
What if you believe that to be true?
Yeah.
So this is your homework for the next month. Every morning you're going to get up and look in the mirror and go, what are you going to do? I have the DNA of heaven. Now that's some good news. Go ahead and have a seat. So we recap, and we recap, and we recap, recap. Because here's the thing is we want you to know that there is an enemy who has a plan, and there is a God who also has a plan, and he put his plan into motion before the enemy ever did. And so we want you to be aware, we're supposed to be as wise. You guys know this one? Scripture? Wise as a serpent, innocent as a dove. So we're going to make sure that we're all really wise to win the enemy. So that when the enemy starts coming, not win, it's win. When the enemy comes at us, when the enemy starts making us question who we are, when the enemy starts bringing the pain, or we're living the residual effects from the pain, we have truth. We have a new truth we get to hold on to. So we're going to recap. What's the enemy's method? Pain. So when we have that pain, and it's filtered through our distorted and fear-filled understanding, this causes wounds. The enemy steps in when we're most vulnerable and hurting, and he tells us lies. How many of you have ever been told a lie by the enemy? If you haven't raised your hand, then you didn't recognize, oh, that was a lie.
You're already lying.
Okay, we've all been told lies from the enemy. Because if you discover who you are, he becomes powerless. When you discover who you are, he's made powerless. And so he does whatever he can to try to keep you from who you are. And when we believe those lies, it leads us straight into self-destruction. And we end up with a cycle of defeat. I want you to say wounds.
Wounds.
Down here, wounds.
Wounds.
Lies.
Lies.
Sin. That is a cycle of defeat that he will keep you in over and over and over until you discover who you are. So all of our stuff is filtered through this wounds, the lies, the sin, the cycle of defeat. It creates a distorted understanding of the event. It results in fear, sadness, anger, bitterness, judgment, victim stance, and it creates a hardened heart. But we're not left there. Because in walks Jesus.
Yeah.
We now get to do something with what we've been told we just have to live with. We now are going to be learning how to actually give our pain to Jesus. So we know that first part of John 10:10, the thief thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy. Because we know his method. Yeah, it's still, what's his method? Still pain. Even 5 seconds ago, still pain. And his mess is fear and grief, and he keeps us in this cycle. And the outcome is destructive behaviors. It results in sin. But when you give your pain to Jesus, and we are going to learn how to do that, and we start believing the truth, you get to experience the last part of John 10:10, the full life, the wahoo life. So in walks Jesus. Jesus came to earth as a human being to reveal God to us, to show us who God is, to show us his character, his nature, what he thinks, how he acts, what he feels, what are his motives. Does he really love you? Is he mad at you? Look at Jesus. He came to reveal the Father's heart for you. That's why he says, if you've seen me, you've seen my Father.
Right.
God sent Jesus as his exact human representative to undo, destroy all the works of the enemy. 1 John 3:8 says, Jesus came to undo the work of the devil. So just so you didn't think I was just putting something out there, it's actually scripture. Yeah. He said it. I'm just saying what he said. Came to undo the work of the devil. How many of you, anybody ever studied Greek? Nice. Besides you. Yeah. So David is really big, loves the Greek. God has given him a passion for it. And the more that he studies, the more that he finds, it just kind of kindles this fire in everyone around him. Because I'll tell you what, when someone's burning and you get close enough, you ignite too. And so he burns with this love and this fire for the word. And so he started looking at the Greek, at some of the, because the English really did a poor job of translating the Greek. It really did. Where it's so one-dimensional. And so he looked at the word undo in the Greek, and it means to loose, melt, dissolve, or destroy.
Yeah.
I think that sounds a little better than just undo. I want you to say luo. Luo is the Greek word for undo there, and it means, I'm going to say it again, loose, melt, dissolve, or destroy.
Amen.
Completely undone. Completely.
Yeah. Amen.
So this is, God had a plan put in motion. God had a plan put in motion from the very beginning. And we get to start choosing to believe God's plan. John 3:16-17 says, for God expressed his love for the world in this way. He gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him will not face everlasting destruction, but will have everlasting life. Amen. Here's the point. God didn't send his Son into the world to judge it. He's here to rescue the world, headed for certain destruction. So we get to believe God's plan. See, Jesus was the plan. Remember I said the enemy had a plan, but God had a plan first?
Yeah.
Okay, Jesus was the plan.
All along.
Already set in motion. Before the foundations of the earth, already set in motion. John 3:17 says, for God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Here's another Greek lesson. Ready? Say sozo.
So.
That's the Greek word for save. Again, you think save, we're like, oh, throw me a life vest, or, whew, you saved me, you covered my shift at work. Okay, kind of a one-dimensional view of save. It actually means to deliver, protect, heal, preserve, prosper, to be or to be made whole.
Amen. Thank you, Jesus.
I'll take all of that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes.
Take all of it.
Yep.
We can believe the plan because it's already been implemented. This is the cool thing. We're not waiting for the plan of Jesus Christ to be implemented. It's already happened. It's already been done. He came. He died. He rose. Death has been defeated. The flesh has been defeated. It's a done deal.
Yeah.
We get to wear that. He did the work. And he says, you're my kid. That makes it yours. You're an heir of that blessing. You're an heir of that promise. So why does it look like God's plan isn't working for me? Don't raise your hand. And just ask yourself, have I ever asked that question before? Why does it feel as if it's not working for me? It's for everyone but me. I must be the step kid. No. We're going to find out why.
We're all stuck kids.
check it with the boss. So we're going to find out why. We're going to answer that question and leave you with some hope.
So everybody practice having your wings on again. Just don't whack your neighbor. Go ahead and stand up. Take just like a 10-second breather. So you've gained a ton of information already tonight, and I want you to know that your brain has already been going through a transformational process. Even as we've been speaking, your brain has been receiving and neural pathways have been challenged, and you're getting information already, and your brain is going, whoa. Whoa. Okay, you can sit down now.
Whoa, right.
So you learned that the enemy has come in to steal, kill, and destroy, and this method has been pain. And he's inflicted pain on you in all sorts of different ways, and he's lied to you about the pain that have created your little templates, your little T-truths. And we look at life and we feel life and we experience life through our templates of what our belief system is, the belief system that we've built, and we're viewing everything through that. But God says that doesn't have to stay that way, and it's His plan for your brain to change. It's His plan for you to believe the way He believes.
Right.
And I want to say some things here. I want to say a few statements to you, and if you want me to repeat them, I will. But I want you to write down in the margin next to your book. I want you to write some of these down. Some of you might have been thinking, well, why isn't God's plan working for me? And you're immediately thinking, man, I've given my heart to Jesus, and I've tried really hard. I've tried to do the right thing. I've tried to stop this. I've tried to make it good. I've tried to love people, and I've tried to receive God's love, and it just doesn't seem like it's working for me. And I'm not putting your salvation into question here. And so I want to say this statement, and if you want to, you can write this down. It says, you get saved when you believe in Jesus. How many can agree with that?
Yeah. Amen.
You get saved when you believe in Jesus. You get transformed when you believe like Jesus. Woo! You get transformed when you believe like Jesus. There's a lot of people, I grew up in the church, and this has been the question throughout the body of Christ of a lot of believers that have said, man, I've tried to serve God. I've tried to do the right thing. I've tried to get past it, and it's just not working for me. How? I just don't have the power. I don't know how to tap in. Well, our belief system has to change. It has to change. It's broken. We're believing lies.
Right.
We're letting our emotions control our flesh instead of the Holy Spirit control our flesh. Notice that the whole point of the enemy giving you pain is because he wants to create fear and grief in you, so that all you do is react to fear every day. That's it. You're just trying to survive the emotions and the feelings and the frustration and the anger, the depression, the hurt, the victim stance of what you've experienced. And that's just this cycle of madness that the enemy has kept you in. So I'm going to give you your very first weapon. And in the back of your book, what do you mean, no?
They're not there.
Back in their book.
Oh, no. You're going to hand it to me.
Yeah, here comes your weapon.
Okay. So we're going to hand you out, you're going to be getting some 3x5 cards. You're going to be getting some 3x5 cards. And I'm going to tell you why this is a weapon. When God started telling us to change the way that we thought, the way that we spoke, and the way that we believed, He told us to write it down on 3x5 cards and carry it around with us.
That's right.
Everywhere we went.
Everywhere.
And every day we would get them out periodically throughout the day, and we would read and declare the things that God wanted us to read and declare over our life, over our circumstances, over our ministry, over our community, over our children, over our parents, and so on. And so you're going to be receiving 3x5 cards. So you have the envelope, right? Everybody has the envelope or getting it? Okay, inside there's going to be multiple ones. I want you to pick a colored one. Pick one color. I don't care what it is. Pick a color. And we're going to give you your first weapon. This is foundational.
Yeah.
This weapon is foundational because it is the very thing that will help start the renewal process of your brain. On it, I want you to write, believe God. On your colored 3x5 card, you can write it as big or as small or as squiggly or whatever you want. But write down, believe God. And somewhere around there, either on the back or around it, I want you to write big T truth. Big T truth. If you get finished, put your name on your envelope so you don't lose it. Do they still have the pocket in the back of the books?
No pockets.
Oh no. Okay.
All right. Improvise.
We will survive. Yeah. All right. Believe God. Okay. So some of you might be thinking, okay, this is what I came to a seminar for, where my first weapon is believe God, because I'm pretty sure I believe God. I'm pretty sure that I've got this one figured out. Well, we thought we did too. And there's a lot of people that say that they believe in God. But remember, I said that you get saved by believing in Jesus, but you get transformed by believing like Jesus. That means that big T truth means that we have to not just believe in God, but believe God. That means there are things that we believe that don't line up with God. Right? There are little T truths that are experiential for us that we believe. If you've been attacked by a dog as a little kid or something, you might have a belief system that says all dogs are bad, or at least dangerous. Is that true? No, it's not true. Because I have 2 dogs, and they'll lick you and love you if you just give them a little bit of attention, and they don't have a mean bone in their body. So your experience tells you that dogs are bad, but God's big T truth says, I created dogs. I did not create them to be bad, and that's why they are most of the time now healing companions for many disabled people and people hurting. Okay? So that's just a little picture of why believe God and big T truth. I'm going to talk about a little bit about how we believe God and what we believe God about. So there's 5 areas. And you're going to write these 5 areas down on your card somewhere also. The first one is on the same card. Fit it in. You'll figure. Go around. You can write it on the back or whatever you want.
Yeah, put it on the back.
So the first one is believe God is who He says He is. So you can just write God is who He says He is. God is who He says He is. The second thing is God can do what He says He can do.
Yeah.
God can do what He says He can do. You are. Thank you, Lord. Number 3 is you are who God says you are. Yeah, or I am who God says I am. Put it in the first person. And the fourth one is I can do what God says I can do. I'll wait for it. And we'll leave it up on the screen too, so you can look up there and get reminded also. You are who God says you are, and you can do what God says you can do. And the fifth one is God's word and spirit are alive and active in me. God's word and spirit are alive and active in me. So in all of the years of ministry that I've been in, I'll say statements like this. Well, do you believe God is who he says he is? Well, yes. Okay. Yes, I would say that I absolutely believe that. Yes, God is who he says he is. And I said, well, then what does he say he is? Well, I'm not too sure about that one. Well, but I believe that he is what he says he is. Well, if you don't know what he says he is, how can you believe it? How is that going to benefit you? If you believe that God can do what he says he can do, then you better know what God says he can do. And so on with this. If you don't know who God says you are, then how can you believe it? If you don't know what God says about the things that you can do, then how can you believe that? If you don't have any understanding, if you don't find out, if you don't know, you can't believe it. And most of us, in our busy life or in our overwhelmed life, won't search it out. We won't go looking. Or the enemy tries to come in and brings chaos or brings destruction or brings confusion to us, where he tries to shut the door on that and overwhelm us with something else. So these 5 areas are, I can't even tell you how foundationally important this is for your healing, for your transformation. And so we're gonna help you in this, because we're gonna start telling you who God says he is and what he can do and what he says about you and what you can do. Amen? And we're going to teach you about his word, and we're going to teach you about his spirit, and we're going to help you get an understanding this weekend. How's that? And you've already blocked out the time, so there's no excuses. Yay! All right. No one cheered on that one except all right. So here's what we got. Here's why I'm going to start. We're just going to kind of go down, and I'm going to look at some of the things about believing God. See, our experiences, they frame our perceptions. So there's 2 things happening here. You view yourself and your experiences through your little T truths, and then you view your life and you view others through a frame of your experiences and the things that have happened. So that means that you now view God through this frame. And you're looking at God and saying, man, you're not really nice to me. How come you're giving good things to these people over here, and yet I'm stuck in the same old yuck? How come you weren't there to help me? How come this thing happened to me? How come you didn't protect me? How come you didn't provide for me? How come? And we look at that and we begin to blame God. Was God the author of those things? No. Absolutely not. You have an enemy that hates your guts. Yeah. And so, but he gets us to blame God instead of him. And so we view God and we have a wrong frame. God has been framed. And everyone views God through their eyes of pain, through their trauma. And pain wasn't God's plan. God has been falsely accused and blamed for the pain that has been caused by the enemy. So we have to reframe our image of God. God is not the bad guy. So let's get a right frame here. Here we go.
There we go.
This is looking so much more like God, for sure. Because this is what God says about himself. If you want to know who God says he is, this is what he says. He says he's love. He says he's patient. He's gentle. He's compassionate. He's merciful. He's faithful. He's just. He's personal. He's powerful. He's tender and good. He's true. And he's supernatural. And that's just, guys, there's so much more. That's just a taste of what God really says about himself. So if we're going to reframe our image of God, about who He is. We also have to reframe our image about what we believe God can do. And so here's some things that God says about Himself, about what He does. He says He saves. He says He heals. He forgives. He provides. He hears. He answers. He restores. He protects. He reveals. He speaks. He leads. He encourages. He creates. And that He does everything. That nothing is impossible for God. That's what He says. Nothing is impossible for God. So what does God say that He can do? Everything. Everything. It's pretty easy. Let me put this over here. Stay. All right. So we have to reframe our image of God. So this is what happens. We're doing great. We reframe our image of God. God, you're so beautiful. You're so awesome. You're magnificent. I believe you can do these amazing things, except for you can't do anything with me. Because I'm still broken, and it just doesn't work for me, and it just hasn't happened for me. And so we can have this great image of God, but then when we look at ourselves, we don't believe what God says about us. And we have a false identity. And so we have to reframe our image of ourselves also, right? That would make sense, right? Correct. So we have to get rid of our old frame. We have to take off our glasses. We have to remove the lies that we believed. And we have to get a new frame of reference about ourselves as well. About who we are and about what we can do. If you know me, you know that I preach identity nearly every day to anyone who will listen. Because who you say you are, or who you believe you are, is so important. And the enemy has worked overtime to rob you of that.
Right.
So let's reframe our image of us, okay? Let's do this together. This is what God says about you. These are just a few of them. First of all, you're made in His image.
Yeah.
You're made in the image of God.
Yeah. Amen.
Everything good about you came from Him. He says that you're His dearly loved child, and He's adopted you. He says that He's empowered you to overcome. He says that you're destined to rule and reign. He says that you are the hope for the nations. James 1:18 says that you are His prized possession. We have to reframe our images about ourselves. The enemy loves to steal from us in this area. So when we're trying to remove these false frames and these little T-truths, I want to say this statement to you. We don't deny a negative past experience. We're not saying that you haven't had negative past experiences. We just don't create our identity and our beliefs from it. Okay? So we're not saying that you haven't been through hell. I know there's people that have gone through, you don't know how they survived. We're not trying to take away from that. But we are saying, do not build your identity and belief system based off of the garbage that the enemy has put in your life. This is what God's Word says He is for you and who you are. Most of you know this one. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Romans 8:28. We know that all things, say all things, work together for the good of those who love God, those whom He has called according to His plan. Romans 8:37 says the one who loves us gives us overwhelming victory in all of these difficulties. Philippians 1:6 says that I am certain that God who began the good work within you will continue His work until it is finished on the day when Christ Jesus returns. Reframe your image of you. You get to be who you really are. You get to be who God says you are. You get to be who God says you are. I think we have the song right now. So he calls you his beloved. That's what God says about you. And we want to build on this foundation that we've given you tonight and allow your brain to kind of process everything that we've been teaching you tonight. And everything that we do throughout this weekend is going to build on each other and allow, I got one. And it's going to allow you to put the pieces together so that by the time Saturday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon comes, you will feel equipped. You will feel a sense of empowerment to take authority over what the enemy has stolen from you, to take back territory and to begin to allow God to renew your mind about every area of your life. So let's stand and agree together tonight as we close. But I would like us to say these together as we go out tonight. The first one, let's say together. Are we ready? God is who He says He is. Number 2, God can do what He says He can do. All right, point to yourself for this one. I am who God says I am.
Yes.
I can do what God says I can do. And God's Word and Spirit are alive and active in me. We have it again. Here we go. God's Word and Spirit are alive and active in me.
Got 2 new ones, Jeremy.
Oh, we do. Oh, well. Who He is defines who I am. All right. All things are possible with God. Is that it? Okay. So tomorrow morning, I want to let you guys know that we're going to get things rolling right around 8 o'clock. So we'll have a nice continental breakfast. So go home, get some rest, but come back ready, and we will have a little bit of worship to kind of wake you up, and then we'll get right into it. So go ahead and have a blessed night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.